All right, welcome back, everybody. So into the question of the day. This is what we're asking you this morning. And all around Phala Phala, the NPA's decision to not prosecute anyone in relation to the Phala Phala Farm case.
Indeed, this is the talking point this morning. So at Morning Live SABC is where you can respond via X, or you can send us a WhatsApp voice note on 078-459-1897. Short, sharp, to the point. Let's hear your views. And this, of course, is also the interview that Leanne's going into now.
Indeed, and we'll get some analysis, and hopefully this will help you a little bit as well with weighing in on the conversation. So let's get directly into it. And so a bit of more detail about this particular situation. Last night, the Director of Public Prosecutions in Limpopo announced that they've taken a decision not to prosecute the president or anyone else in relation to the Phala Phala Farm case. In that statement, the Director of Public Prosecutions, Thenga, that's in Limpopo, says the decision not to prosecute was taken after a careful assessment of all available evidence presented to the prosecutors by the Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation. The complaint, laid by Arthur Fraser, requested police to investigate the conduct of the president and Major General Wally Roode, alleging that it amounted to the commission of money laundering and corruption. This is in relation to the break-in and theft of about $580,000 at Phala Phala Farm in Bela Bela, Limpopo. NPA spokesperson Mthunzi Mhaga says there were no prospects of success. So let's get some analysis, and we're joined by the Director of the Center for the Advancement of Non-Racialism and Democracy, Professor Bheki Mngomezulu. Prof, great to have you. Thanks for weighing in on this matter for us.
Thanks, Leanne, for having me. Good morning to your viewers.
I have to ask you, what was your reaction when you heard this decision taken by the Director of Public Prosecutions in Limpopo not to prosecute?
Unlike many South Africans, I was not in fact shocked. I hear people say they are shocked. I was not shocked, simply because our law seems to have eyes. If you and I, Leanne, were involved in this large amount of money, obviously there would have been prosecution long time ago, not even now. So then the question is, if the prosecutor says that there is nobody to prosecute, is it because there is nothing to prosecute, or is it because the people who are supposed to be prosecuted are being protected? That is the question you should be asking.
Yeah, and I mean, when we look at what they said, the decision follows a comprehensive investigation process that was conducted by the Directorate for Priority Crimes Investigation. And there's just not enough evidence, is what they're saying. But there's a couch, there was money, there was missing, there's suspects, it was the president's farm. How do they not have enough evidence? I suppose we need to ask ourselves.
Leanne, we are asking a very pertinent question. In fact, this is an embarrassment to our jurisprudence. Ordinarily, you will have a litigant and will have a defendant. In this case, we know that there are Namibians who were to appear before court because there was money that was in Phala Phala Farm. There was money that was stolen. And of course, that man was not supposed to be kept in the house in the first place. And there are people who are implicated. So to say there is nothing to prosecute, it's an embarrassment really to our justice system, because it means that next time, if you and I were to do the same thing, would expect the same end result, but that is not going to happen.
Yeah.
So in this case, we have a situation whereby large sums of money were kept in the house when was something that was not supposed to happen. We are still not sure if this money was declared at SARS, as should be the case. We are also not sure as to why this money was not in the bank. And then suddenly we are told there is nothing to prosecute. This is a shame. It's a total shame.
So if we look at the role of the NPA in all of this, I mean, the NPA don't investigate. I mean, surely this is actually bigger than that, and this can't be the end of the road. I mean, this is how things work. How can it end here?
It's not supposed to end here. But one thing that has happened, you recall that when this matter surfaced, there are a number of people who became casualties, one of whom is advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane. Because after she had publicly announced that she was going to investigate this case, Then suddenly she was served with a suspension letter, and then, as they say, the rest is history. The reason why she's not getting her 10 million gratuity is because of the rash decisions that were taken. There were no laws and there were no guidelines in Parliament on how to remove someone heading a Chapter 9 institution. These are to be put together very quickly to ensure that by the time a term of office ends, she would have been forced out of office, which is also another embarrassment for the country. It's okay for politicians to do this now, but then the question is, a few years down the line, when they are no longer members of Parliament, will they look back at this issue and then pat themselves at the back and say, we did a great job? I don't think so. There have been a number of other casualties, but the question is, what does this do to the image of our country, just among South Africans, but also internationally? So this is an embarrassment.
Yeah. I mean, when we look at this and we now see that the NPA is scheduled to appear before the Portfolio on Justice and Constitutional Development on Friday, we also heard the EFF saying that they're taking this to Parliament. They also want to still go ahead with impeachment proceedings against the president. What can Parliament do?
Ordinarily, Parliament is supposed to invoke Section 89 of the Constitution as they did last time. But then in the sixth administration, the advantage for the president and those surrounding him is that the ANC had the largest number in Parliament. Even when the president resigned, they told him, you must not resign. We have the numbers. We are going to defend you. Right now, there was a better chance for the impeachment process to proceed, but unfortunately, the DA has been co-opted in the multi-party coalition, which they wrongly refer to as the GNU. And they are now singing a different tune, which is also hypocrisy on the side of the DA. All along, the DA gave us the impression that they want to make sure that justice prevails, and then they want to make sure that the law does not have eyes. But now that they are part of this multi-party coalition, they are now singing a different tune, that they are not going to support any impeachment call on the president. So the EFF is doing what's supposed to be done. ATM is doing what is supposed to be done. But the question is, will they have the numbers? Because we need 2/3 majority to activate Section 89 of the Constitution. That's where the problem is.
Yeah, and certainly the MK party as well, I imagine also moving in that direction. But you mentioned a bit earlier about, the former public protector, Busisiwe Mkhwebane, falling on her sword for this one. But later on, the public protector and the South African Reserve Bank also cleared Ramaphosa in separate investigations. Is this matter going to, I suppose, raise tempers within the political space? Because we now suddenly see a GNU partner very, very quiet about this, the DA, who used to be very loud about it. So what do you think will come of this?
To be honest with you, Leanne, I don't think anything positive will come out of this, not because nothing wrong happened, but simply because there are people who have lost an identity. There is an identity crisis amongst individuals. There is an identity crisis amongst politicians. They don't seem to know what they're doing. And in fact, it's tarnishing their own public image. If you have SARS clearing the president saying there is nothing wrong that happened, you have the current public protector, Kollega Thenga, saying there is nothing to prosecute. Then you have the NPA. Basically, there are a number of people who are putting their integrity on the line by defending something that is indefensible. But then, of course, to answer our question, nothing is going to happen, because if you take this matter to Parliament and you invoke Section 89 of the Constitution, chances are you will be told that in the first instance, you don't have the numbers. And then secondly, if the NPA is not prosecuting, so therefore there is no case to listen to. So which means then the Namibians must also be set free, because there is no litigant, there is no defendant. So we just end it here. And then, of course, at the detriment of the image of the country.
Well, that was my next question to you, because I mean, exactly what you're saying, because all along there's been a court case that was happening. We've got individuals implicated in this. There's $4 million that was stolen. So we must just forget about this. That, I mean, it's there. It's out in the public. We know it. There was an admission of it. And now, is there a chance of perhaps a private prosecution going ahead on this issue?
Unfortunately, we have seen that with Billy Downer, that private prosecution will also not be possible because it doesn't necessarily come back to what the case is. It comes back to who you are. If you and I were done something like this, then of course private prosecution would have been an option. But it's not going to happen, unfortunately. There have been a number of people who have basically done things that they were not supposed to do, and I doubt if a few years down the line they will be happy about the decisions they are making now. It serves them well now, but then in future, then this might be something they will regret for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, so 70 million rand gone, disappeared into thin air, and that's pretty much so where we're leaving it. Prof, it's a tough one, a tough pill to swallow, but I imagine this is not the end of the story. Are you agreeing with me? Do you think there's more traction in the story? Do you think we're just going to let this lie?
I don't think so, because like you said, I deliberately did not want to include MK Party because there are people who are lazy to think, and then whenever I say things that place the MK Party positively, then they say it's because I'm engineering everything that is happening in the MK Party. That is basically what I call political parochialism. The reality here is you have the MK Party, you have the EFF, we have the ATM, we have many other political parties, because there were 26 political parties that filled the Section 55 forms after the election, basically questioning a number of things that went wrong. And then, of course, only one party was seen to be the culprit, that is the MK Party. Then when we try to explain that, then people become personal, which is also a problem, because you cannot deal with issues at a personal level. You just have to look at them in context and be rational in your discussion of this particular issue.
All right, Prof, thank you. Thanks for joining us. Professor Bheki Mngomezulu, Director of the Center for the Advancement of Non-Racialism and Democracy, unpacking that NPA decision not to prosecute the president or anyone else for the Phala Phala matter. Also, just on a side note, just apologies for the beeping that was coming through during that interview. I think it was something coming off the prof's laptop, but I think you got the point. We got the interview to you. I certainly didn't want to stop it just because of the beep, but I hope you understood. Quick break. See you after this with your newspapers.